Here we go. On this video, I'm going to be looking at Melchizedek and the subject of the high priesthood that we find in Genesis chapter 14, where Abraham met Melchizedek, paid tithes to him, and Melchizedek then blessed Abraham. And in this text, Melchizedek then becomes a type of Jesus Christ, I believe, and the eternal priesthood that Christ has by virtue of his glorious resurrection. So, looking at the grammar, just briefly, I'll be reading the Hebrew and doing a brief grammatical analysis. And this is, can I say, like a second edition. So we're shortening it, making them shorter, easier to follow. We are then in verse 18. Melchizedek melech shalom hotzi lechem v'yayin v'hu kohen le'el elyon. So as we read it in Melchizedek, literally my king of righteousness, melech shalem, king of Shalem. Shalem, I believe, is an old place name for Jerusalem. Hotzi lechem v'yayin. He brought forth bread and wine. Hotzi is a verb, and it's from the root yatsa. It's a Hiphel perfect, third masculine singular, from the root yatsa. Historically, it was vatsa, and hautsi became hotzi. Pathak vav, AW, changed to a long holon vav. But it is a Hiphel perfect, third masculine singular. He brought forth lechem v'yayin, bread and wine, v'hu, and he, kohen, was priest, le'el elyon, to God Most High. Notice, if I do a basic understanding of this text in relationship to the New Testament, Melchizedek is a priest of God Most High who brings bread and wine. It is interesting to me that Christ is the priest of God the Father who also brings bread and wine as a representation of his sacrifice in the breaking of his body and establishing the new covenant through his sacrifice and through his crucifixion. And so bread and wine depict that, I believe, seen through the lenses of the New Testament. Then in verse 19 it reads, Vayavarahehu vayomer Baruch Avram le'el elyon konei shamayim va'aretz. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Avram, to God Most High, the possessor of heaven and earth. Notice, looking at the grammar briefly here, Vayavarahehu is from the root barak. It's a PL imperfect, third masculine singular, followed by hu, the pronominal suffix, third masculine singular. So he blessed him. Notice the Shavah comments. Since the resh cannot double, we move back, which was historically, could we say, a pathak lengthening to a comment. And he blessed him, Vayomer Baruch, and he said, Vayomer again is the cow imperfect, third masculine singular from Amar, and said, Baruch Avram. Baruch is a cow passive participle from Barak, so blessed be Avram le'el elyon, to God Most High. Konei means, literally from the root kana, to get. It means possessor, of, or maker of, or possessor of. It's a Kal active participle, masculine singular from Kana, possessor of Shamayim Va'adas, of heaven and earth. So we would render it, and he, blessed be Abraham, um, and he blessed him, and he said, blessed be Avram, to God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth. Notice here, Melchizedek worships God as the maker of heaven and earth. John says that all things were made by the Word, by Christ, which includes heaven and earth. And so he blessed him and said, blessed be Abraham, by God Most High, maker of heaven and earth. So Melchizedek points to God as the maker of heaven and earth. And I thought in the New Testament, Jesus Christ says, before Abraham was I am, uses the language of Exodus 3, and he also is the maker of heaven and earth as the priest as well. Of course, unlike Melchizedek, who was not the maker of heaven and earth, but he points to God who is. And Jesus is like Melchizedek, but he is also God in the second person of the Blessed Trinity, maker of heaven and earth. And so we come to the next verse, verse 20. Uvaruk el elyon asher megain sarecha biyadecha bayitain lo ma'aser mekol. And blessed be God Most High, who delivered your enemies into your hand, and he gave him a tenth of everything. That is, Abraham gave a tenth. Notice, Uvaruk el, and blessed be El Elyon. Baruch is another Kal passive participle, masculine singular. Blessed be God El Elyon, God Most High, Asher Megain, who has delivered. Megain is a PL perfect, third masculine singular from Magan, to deliver, who has delivered Sarecha Biyadecha. Notice some of the literary assonance here. Your enemies into your hand. Vayetain, Vayetain lo ma'aser mikol. And he gave to him a tenth from all. Notice here, going back here, Vayetain is a Peinun verb from Natan. It's a Kal imperfect, third masculine singular. So Yintain becomes Yitain, where the noon by progressive assimilation has gone into the Tav. And he gave to him Ma'aser, a tenth of all, Mikol. So again, if we give the translation, and blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand, and he gave him a tenth of everything. So the Lord delivered Abraham, and he paid a tenth of everything. How important it is for the believer in Christ, who has been delivered by Christ, to give a tenth, and not only a tenth, and more, to glorify his name in thanksgiving for Christ's great victory to all believers.